Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon put one over on a mobster in Bound.
And Tom Hanks teaches a small-town rock band the musical facts of life in That Thing You Do.
That Thing You Do is the fastest rising single in the history of the Playtone label. As of tomorrow morning, you wonders, you've got the #7 record in the country.
Tom Hanks plays a record company executive who promotes a small-town band to great success in That Thing You Do, one of the movies we're reviewing this week. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. It's a small, inconsequential role for Tom Hanks. Many actors could have played it as well, but the big news with That Thing You Do is that Hanks has directed his first movie, and befitting his absolutely likable image as an actor, he's created an absolutely likable movie, breezy, sweet, funny, and of no great importance. Here's a typically charming scene. It's the summer of 1964 as one of the band members' girlfriends, played by Liv Tyler, hears their record actually being played on the radio for the first time.
This is Erie's own
That leads to the introduction of Tom Hanks's character, who does his best to take the band out of Pennsylvania and on the road to great success.
If he likes what he hears, he's going to play That Thing You Do tomorrow morning with 50,000 watts behind it. It's very important you don't stink today.
Hey, I make no guarantees.
We bow, right, in unison, and we're off the stage before the applause dies out, right?
Eventually, the boys have a really big hit on their hands, and just like the Beatles, they get mobbed by crazy fans.
Hey, hold it! She's with us! Hey! Well, I like Wisconsin.
What's the point of That Thing You Do? Beats me if it's anything beyond breezy nostalgia. Actor Tom Everett Scott makes a really strong starring role debut as the drummer who probably would have been played by Tom Hanks in somebody else's movie. My bottom line reaction to the picture? I enjoyed it while I was watching it, but haven't given it a moment's thought since. That's a mixed review, but a marginal thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I give it a thumbs up, too, because it was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you go for 2 hours to the movies, you want to have a good time, you go to this movie, you have a good time, and it really doesn't amount to anything, except it does do a good job of recapturing just that moment. And what's kind of funny is the girls who are mobbing this band, and mostly they are young teenage girls, are doing it as kind of a rehearsal. They've watched on television the way the Beatles are mobbed. They don't have the Beatles at their state fair, but they have these guys, and so they're kind of reenacting this new screaming mob ritual that they've seen on television with the first band that comes along.
If anyone's wondering why I'm holding it to a tough standard, why being nice can't be a positive value, it is, but it is Tom Hanks's picture. He's a big name. He's his top star in the world today, I think, at some level, and so you want to say, okay, here's your first crack at it. What is this going to tell us about you?
It does have some wisdom when they get to Los Angeles and they run into a waitress in a bar and an old jazz musician.
Yeah, actually, that's the best part of it.
Tom Hanks manager,
or the most surprising part.
The Tom Hanks manager himself, who's very cold to these guys when it comes up, when it needs to.
But if people are really interested in the subject, there's a better film called I Want to Hold Your Hand, made years ago.
Okay, next movie. And our next movie is a leading contender for honors as this year's successor to Blood Simple and Red Rock West. It's named Bound, and it's a film noir with a very complicated plot about some very complicated people and some fairly complicated sex. The movie stars Gina Gershon as a tough-talking lesbian who has just gotten out of prison. Now she's moved into a new apartment next to a Chicago mobster played by Joe Pantoliano and his girlfriend played by Jennifer Tilly. Here, her character has an intimate lunch with the mobster's girlfriend.
I want out. I want a new life. I see what I've been waiting for, but I can't do it alone. I need your help, Corky.
Meanwhile, the mobster gets a large delivery of cash which gets covered with blood, so he launders it literally.
Hundreds paper-clipped everywhere like leaves. Then one by one, he ironed all of it.
The two women cook up a plan to outsmart the hood and steal the money.
I'm gonna need something to fill the case. Hide it near the desk. And at that point, there's no turning back.
The plot in Bound is incredibly ingenious, but we follow it every step of the way, and there aren't any loopholes, and for the last half hour, we're in that enjoyable movie state of constant apprehension. A million things can go wrong, and the lives of the women are in constant danger. Bound is pure filmmaking, scary, funny, sexy, and horrifying.
Absolutely true, and I think what these directors have, the Wachowski brothers, is an impeccable sense of timing.
Yes.
They know how to leave just enough slack in their story, and this is a tightly written story, but their timing is so great, so that we can register, wow, now how are they going to get out of this? And I know what I'm talking about in scene after scene is maybe 1 second, maybe 1.5 seconds. It's placed there for us to get hooked, and we're hooked and hooked all the way through. And you said sexy, and I want to talk about Gina Gershon.
Okay,
because she's
good,
really hot in every sense of what she's supposed to do, and she's dangerous and exciting, and she was the best thing in that Showgirls picture, which was so terrible.
Yes, she was,
and she really lives up to an excellent role here.
She's terrific here, and it's like the Marx Brothers in that movie where they're running in and out of each other's hotel rooms.
If the Marx Brothers had great bodies.
It's like blood-soaked slapstick in a way, and the movie is just terrific.
It's very well done. Coming up next, Liam Neeson playing a different kind of hero. This time he's a revolutionary leader in Ireland, Michael Collins.
I can't hear you! Who'll take my place? Will they shut you up?
Good, if you will, call me a traitor, if you will. But please, let's save the country.
That's Liam Neeson as the long-buried and perhaps forgotten Irish revolutionary leader Michael Collins in the film of the same name, directed by Neil Jordan of the Crying Game fame. This picture, Michael Collins, is a look back at the beginnings of the now controversial Irish Republican Army. Here we meet the revolutionary Michael Collins, played by Liam Neeson, who after being released from prison in 1918, argues that the Irish must become more militant.
Our friends in the Royal Irish Constabulary would like to shut me up.
Jail me again. Shoot me. Who knows? But I'd like you to send them a message. If they shut me up, who'll take my place?
Michael Collins is more radical than his mentor, the soon-to-be president of the Irish Republic, Eamon de Valera, but he pledges loyalty as de Valera, or Dev, played by Alan Rickman, goes to America to plead the Irish cause.
Dev, remember one thing over there. You're my chief, always.
Later, Collins negotiates partition of Ireland that his friend and lover, played simply by Julia Roberts, predicts will never go down easy with the Irish.
You heard what De Valera said.
It wade through rivers of blood. Huh?
And whose blood do you think he's talking about? Yours, Mick.
The movie moves a bit slowly. Some of its sequences seem more storybook than real. But the sadness that is the English-Irish conflict is clearly communicated. A marginal thumbs up from me for Michael Collins.
What surprised me is how negative a portrait the film paints of De Valera, who later on was considered to be a great patriot, and is seen here as a very petty man who sends Collins to negotiate a truce that he knows is going to reflect badly on Collins. And then when Collins comes back and tries to tell the Irish people, this is the best we can do, let the bloodshed end, he walks out of the assembly, De Valera does, on a matter of some inconsequential language, and dooms Ireland essentially to another half-century of conflict.
When we grew up, de Valera was a hero.
Was a hero, and the IRA was in retirement, but now it's all started all over again. And what this picture shows in the person of Michael Collins is one person within the IRA who was able to first fight, then to negotiate peace, and then to see a way ahead that might have worked. So it shows a great missed opportunity in history.
Well, also, I think it's very strong on what people would say, you know, you can't fire back.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of this, when he makes that decision, this most radical of moves, the film argues quite convincingly for it being justified. And I thought that was rather bold, too.
Okay, when we come back, Matthew Broderick stars in the story of young love and great physics in Infinity.
What are you doing that for?
I want you to look nice. I want to make a nice appearance so people think well of us.
What do you care what other people think?
Two young people from Queens go out on a date in that opening scene from Infinity, a love story set against the backdrop of the development of the atomic bomb. The man, played by Matthew Broderick, is Richard Feynman, who will become a brilliant physicist and an offbeat, inventive writer and speaker and teacher about science. The woman, played by Patricia Arquette, is Arlene Greenbaum, who will marry him even though she has tuberculosis.
I'm working on a project for the government. I'm getting paid. This way I can take care of her at last. Okay? Come on, Pop.
The scientist overcomes his parents' objections, and soon he's in Los Alamos, New Mexico, working on the Manhattan Project. He moves his convalescent wife to a sanitarium in Albuquerque, where they do what they can to create the rituals of a normal family life.
I wanted to have steaks. It's a season for it. I bet everybody's doing it. We could do it on the lawn.
Oh, we can't do that. With the cars driving back and forth, and people walking back and forth on the sidewalk, we can't go out on the lawn and cook steaks.
I think it's a lovely place. You don't have to wear the hat, I guess. I got it for you just last week.
Oh.
What do you care what other people think?
Infinity is in the old movie tradition of taking a great man and concentrating on when he was young and in love, instead of when he was middle-aged and working hard and doing his most important work. Broderick and Arquette are wonderful in their scenes together, and Infinity has a small, sweet charm.
I think it does, too. And I also think that the film hints at and values a man of science, which is a difficult thing in American movies. We don't celebrate the intellect very much in our films, and here we're dealing with a world-class brain, and I think you can see that it is rewarded, and he's a more interesting person because of it. And this is a warm-hearted, open man, and he is entered into another family as well with similar values.
I wish the movie had just had a little bit to suggest how much more there was to the life of Richard Feynman. The books he wrote, the students he influenced, the breakthroughs he made, his famous last lecture, which has just come out in a book this month.
You know what? It's not going to. It's going to happen on a cable TV movie. It's not going to happen in a mainstream.
It's not going to happen on
film.
cable either. I think it will happen on the internet if it happens anywhere. Coming up next, three famous actresses, Demi Moore, Cher, and Sissy Spacek, take on the issue of abortion in a collection of 3 short films called If These Walls Could Talk.
A forthcoming film project to be broadcast on HBO called If These Walls Could Talk. 3 short films about abortion starring no less than Demi Moore, Sissy Spacek, and Cher. Boldly, all 3 films bemoan the abortion controversy and take the position that a woman has a right to choose. First up, Demi Moore in a surprisingly serious role considering her recent work, playing a nurse in 1952 who is rejected when she asks a doctor colleague for help with her pregnancy.
I can get you a number for the Florence Crittenden home in Moorville. They'll take care of the adoption for you, give you a place to stay.
That's impossible. I can't go away for 7 months. I mean, what would I tell everyone?
I don't know, Claire. That's the sort of thing one should think about before one puts herself in this situation.
The next film is set in 1974, and now Sissy Spacek's character lives in that same house that Demi Moore's character did, hence the title, If These Walls Could Talk.
Talking about sacrifice. We all have to make a sacrifice here. All of us. Including you. Your degree is gonna have to wait.
I don't want to wait, John. I just got started again. God, this is deja vu. I feel like I'm pregnant with Linda all over.
Well, I don't know what the hell else you want to do.
I don't know what I want to do, but I just want you to understand how important school is to me.
Oh, the final short film stars and was directed by Cher. I certainly wish she made more movies. Here playing a doctor who is the head of an abortion clinic and thus in the middle of a now violent conflict on the issue in 1996.
Their rights? What about my rights? They come to my house, follow my children to school.
Normally, I find chunk-style movies to be lacking in sustained impact almost by definition. But these sketches are something else. They may be star turns, but they are emotional powerhouses that describe the painful arc of the abortion debate over the last 40 years in this country. If These Walls Could Talk will play on HBO starting October 13th. I recommend you check it out.
I recommend people check it out too, Gene, but I think that afterwards I would like to have a long talk with the people I saw it with about the decisions made in each one of these three stories, because of course dramatically the decks are stacked in order to bring us around to the conclusion reached by or forced upon each of these three women. And therefore, it's not necessarily as relevant to the larger issue as it might be. In other words, you can see how this woman's story or this woman's story turned out this way or that way, but you don't want to necessarily generalize from that, which is the danger with the movie.
Well, you're not going to answer some of the tough questions.
No.
With one individual film, maybe you would have had the debate, but you could only have that debate, again, if you think about it, in a 1996 story.
Yes, you couldn't have had the debate when the movie starts with a Demi Moore character, and the movie is useful because it gives some historical perspective.
Exactly, that's what I like.
And because it encourages people to think about an issue in other than completely ideological
Exactly,
terms.
you can understand where people literally are coming from.
When we come back, the thumb goes round, and where it stops, nobody knows. Our new revolving thumb is next.
Offering the finest in luxury service in Southern California style, adjacent to Beverly Hills on LA's fashionable West Side. The Century Plaza Hotel and Tower, a Westin hotel.
Now it's time for our new revolving thumb segment where Gene and I vote thumbs up or down for new happenings in the movie industry. There are actually two movie bestseller charts compiled in the entertainment industry every week. The top 10 that everybody sees and another one that nobody seems to pay any attention to for the films that are in limited release. I wish more papers ran both charts because the second one deals with films like documentaries, art films, foreign films that are playing on less than 200 screens. If you looked on that list at any time in the last 15 weeks, you would see the same title at or near the top of the list, Lone Star, the wonderful film by John Sayles. It doesn't make the big top 10 because it's not in enough theaters, but it just keeps rolling along. It's still playing most of the same theaters where it first opened, and it has grossed a very respectable figure, nearly $12 million so far.
I gotta admit, it's not what I thought it'd be.
I wish people weren't so mesmerized by the top 10 box office list. I wish the media didn't have such a winner-take-all mentality and understood that the best movies sometimes don't open on 2,500 screens on the same Friday. And I'm glad that the word of mouth is turning Lone Star into John Sayles' biggest hit. Around and around the revolving thumb goes, and for Lone Star and other good films in limited release, it points up.
Well, it's very important to explain to people that opening week grosses and the #1 film in the country, all of that is a complete marketing tool created by the studios to justify the huge ad budgets, and often created by the huge ad budgets they do for these pictures, and to justify playing off in 2,500 theaters. It means nothing else. It rarely speaks to the quality of a picture. And now my thumb revolves and points down for a new syndrome in the movies: interchangeable, forgettable titles for action pictures that sound like they come out of a computer file of action-filled words, and it wouldn't surprise me that that's exactly how they're created. Some examples: how about Extreme Measures, which opened last week? It's about a mad genius scientist played by Gene Hackman who uses the homeless as guinea pigs for genetic surgery through the spinal column. Now, I know Spinal Tap as a title was already taken, but Extreme Measures is so lame. Would it matter if it were titled Chain Reaction or Maximum Risk? Not much. And those are actual titles of other generic thrillers from this year. Now, these generic titles cost producers revenue, I think. I may have gotten their attention finally. How can the average moviegoer remember titles like these? And these boring titles also send a sadly accurate signal to moviegoers that the movie isn't really about anything special. It's so generic, it gets the equivalent of a barcode you find on a box of cereal.
Oh, I know what you mean, Gene. People ask me about movies, and I can't remember what one they're talking about. Fatal Attraction or Fatal Beauty, or Basic Instinct or Basic Attraction, or Fatal Instinct. Yeah. By the time you get finished with all these movies, it's just like they put a lot of words into a box and shook it up. And then there was that satire on those kinds of movies. Remember what it was called?
I have no idea.
You don't? Gee, neither do I. But it was something like Fatal Basic Instinct or Attraction or something like that. Now let's take a look at the movies we reviewed this week. 2 thumbs up for Tom Hanks' genial, entertaining That Thing You Do about the rise and fall of a 60s rock and roll band. 2 very enthusiastic thumbs up for Bound, a terrific thriller in the Blood Simple tradition with a great comeback performance by Gina Gershon. 2 thumbs up for Michael Collins with Liam Neeson as the leader who might have brought peace to Ireland. It opens in a few cities on October 11 and goes wider on October 25. 2 more thumbs up for Infinity, the sweet love story about an atomic physicist and his dying wife. And finally, 2 more thumbs up for If These Walls Could Talk, the movie coming up on HBO beginning October 13th. So, Gene, this is totally unprecedented. For 2 weeks in a row, 10 thumbs up.
Amazing. Are we getting easy? I don't think so. Bound is a really terrific picture. That's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with reviews of more new movies, including The Chamber, starring Chris O'Donnell as an attorney battling to save his grandfather, Gene Hackman, from death row. Also, The Ghost in the Darkness with Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer on the hunt for a pair of deadly African lions. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.